Daniel Carter stood at the edge of the observation deck, his hands gripping the railing as he stared out at the vast expanse of space. The view was breathtaking. Countless stars glittered like scattered diamonds against an endless black canvas. But Daniel wasn't here to admire the scenery. He was here for Earth. For years, humanity had worked tirelessly to rebuild after the Great Collapse, a period marked by environmental disasters, wars, and societal breakdown. It had been a long, painful journey, but Earth had finally earned its place among the stars. The Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced civilizations, had extended an invitation to join their ranks. To Daniel, this moment represented hope, a chance for Earth to secure resources, knowledge, and protection from cosmic threats. He believed in diplomacy. He believed in cooperation. And most of all, he believed that the Council would honor its promise to help those in need. Standing beside him was Laura Hayes, her sharp eyes scanning the room with quiet intensity. Unlike Daniel, Laura was pragmatic, always mindful of history's lessons. She trusted few things easily, especially when it came to power dynamics between species. Still, she shared Daniel's goal, to ensure Earth's survival. Together, they made a good team, his optimism balancing her caution. The meeting chamber on Lumina Prime was unlike anything either of them had ever seen. The walls shimmered with soft, iridescent light, and holographic displays floated in midair, showing data streams and star maps. Representatives from dozens of alien races filled the room, their forms ranging from humanoid to utterly alien. Some communicated through translators, others through gestures or even telepathy. Despite the diversity, there was one thing everyone had in common. They were part of the Council, and they held immense power. When it was Earth's turn to speak, Daniel stepped forward, his heart pounding. He cleared his throat and began. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, we come before you today not just as representatives of Earth, but as voices for billions of people who look to you for guidance and aid. His words echoed through the chamber, steady and clear. Our planet faces a grave threat. A rogue star system is on a collision course with Earth. We lack the technology to divert it or protect ourselves fully. We ask for your assistance. A heavy silence followed. Daniel glanced at Laura, who gave him a small nod of encouragement. Then one of the council members, a tall, insect-like being with translucent wings, spoke. Its voice buzzed through the translator. Earth's admission into the Council does not guarantee intervention in such matters. Resources are finite, and priorities must be considered. Laura frowned but remained silent. Daniel pressed on, his tone firm. With respect, this is not merely a matter of resources. This is about preventing the extinction of an entire species. Humanity has shown its willingness to contribute to the Council's goals. Surely, this warrants some measure of support. But the response was unanimous. The Council refused. Worse, they dismissed Earth's concerns entirely, citing logistical challenges and political complications. Daniel felt a sinking sensation in his chest. He had prepared for skepticism, even resistance, but outright rejection. That stung more than he'd expected. Later, back in their quarters, Laura paced the room, her frustration evident. They don't care, she muttered. To them, we're insignificant, disposable. Daniel sank into a chair, rubbing his temples. We can't give up yet. There has to be another way. Laura stopped pacing and looked at him, her expression grim. Maybe. But if we want answers, we'll have to find them ourselves. Trusting the Council won't save us. As they spoke, neither realized how true Laura's words would prove to be, or how far they'd have to go to uncover the truth behind the Council's betrayal. Back on Earth, the news of the Council's refusal spread quickly. Governments around the world convened in secret, their leaders gathering in underground bunkers hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. The air was tense, filled with murmurs of anger and disbelief. Among those present was Samuel Drake, a retired general who had once led Earth's defense forces during the Great Collapse. Now older, his hair streaked with gray, Samuel still carried the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He sat at the head of the table, his sharp eyes scanning the room. "We're on our own," Samuel said, his voice low but firm. "The council won't help us. That much is clear." The others nodded grimly. Some leaned forward, elbows on the table, while others stared at their hands, lost in thought. The situation was dire. A rogue star system was hurtling toward Earth, its gravitational pull already causing disruptions in weather patterns and tectonic activity. If nothing was done, the planet would face catastrophic destruction within months. Humanity had gambled everything on the Council's goodwill and lost. Rachel Monroe, a no-nonsense commander from the United States military, broke the silence. "We can't just sit here and wait for the end. There's another option." Her tone was calm, but her words carried urgency. She stood up, pacing slowly as she spoke. "Years ago, during first contact with an alien species, we recovered fragments of advanced technology. It's been stored away in classified facilities ever since. Maybe it's time we put it to use." Samuel raised an eyebrow. "You mean Project Echo? That was supposed to be theoretical, a pipe dream." "It doesn't have to be," Rachel replied. "With enough resources and manpower, we could retrofit our existing systems, build something capable of defending Earth, or even diverting that star." The room erupted into debate. Some argued that it was too risky, that the technology might not work or could backfire. Others insisted they had no choice. In the chaos, a young voice cut through the noise. Benjamin Cole, a brilliant engineer barely out of his 20s, spoke up. "I studied the alien tech," he said quietly, drawing everyone's attention. "It's complicated, but it's doable. I can make it work, if you give me the tools and the team." Benjamin wasn't used to being the center of attention. He preferred working alone, tinkering with machines in quiet labs. But this was different. This was about survival. His determination shone through his nervous demeanor, convincing even the skeptics. Samuel leaned back in his chair, considering. Finally, he nodded. "All right. We'll move forward with Project Echo. Rachel, you're in charge of operations. Benjamin, you'll lead the engineering team. Everyone else, start coordinating resources. Time is not on our side." As the meeting adjourned, Samuel pulled Rachel aside. "This is dangerous," he warned. "If the council finds out what we're doing, they won't hesitate to stop us." "I know," Rachel said, her jaw tightening. "But if we don't try, we're dead anyway. And I'm not ready to roll over and die." Meanwhile, in New York City, journalist Emily Dawson was digging deeper. Through anonymous sources and leaked documents, she uncovered hints of the council's betrayal. Her instincts told her there was more to the story, something bigger than anyone realized. Late at night, hunched over her laptop in a cramped apartment, Emily pieced together fragments of information. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she wrote an article exposing the council's indifference to Earth's plight. When the article went live, it ignited a firestorm. Protests erupted worldwide, with people demanding answers. Social media buzzed with hashtags like #CouncilBetrayal and #SaveEarth. For the first time in years, humanity seemed united, not by hope, but by anger. The council's refusal had sparked something unexpected, a fierce determination to fight back. In secret labs and hidden bunkers, work on Project Echo accelerated. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, fueled by adrenaline and desperation. Outside, civilians volunteered to help however they could, donating supplies or offering their skills. Even children pitched in, organizing fundraisers and spreading awareness. As the days passed, Earth began to change. Fear gave way to resolve. Defeat turned into defiance. And though the rogue star loomed closer with each passing moment, one thing became clear: humanity wasn't going down without a fight. Daniel Carter couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Back on Lumina Prime, he and Laura Hayes spent their days attending council meetings, trying to plead Earth's case again and again. But every attempt ended the same way: dismissal, excuses, or outright silence. The Council's indifference gnawed at Daniel, but it was Laura who first noticed the cracks in their polished facade. Late one night, as they reviewed documents in their quarters, Laura froze. She stared at a file displayed on her tablet, her brow furrowed. "Daniel," she said quietly, "look at this." Daniel leaned over her shoulder, squinting at the screen. It was a technical report buried deep within the Council's archives, a document so obscure it had almost gone unnoticed. The words made his blood run cold. According to the report, the rogue star system wasn't a natural phenomenon. It had been artificially accelerated by the Council itself. "What does this mean?" Daniel asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "It means they caused this," Laura replied, her tone sharp with disbelief. "They didn't just ignore Earth's problem. They created it." The realization hit them like a punch to the gut. The Council hadn't abandoned Earth because of logistical challenges or political complications. They had deliberately set the rogue star on its destructive path, using it as part of some larger experiment. And now, billions of lives were at stake because of their recklessness. Before they could process the full weight of what they'd discovered, there was a soft knock at the door. Startled, Daniel hesitated before opening it. Standing outside was Cale, a young aide who worked for one of the Council members. His pale face was lined with worry, and he glanced nervously down the hallway before stepping inside. "You shouldn't have found that," Cale said, closing the door behind him. "If anyone knows you've seen it, you'll be in serious danger." "Why are you helping us?" Laura asked, suspicion creeping into her voice. "Because I don't agree with what they're doing," Cale admitted. "This isn't the first time the Council has played God with less advanced species. Most of us just follow orders, but some of us still have a conscience." Cale handed them a small data chip. "This contains everything you need to know. The truth about the rogue star, the experiments, and the Council's plans. Take it back to Earth. Expose them." Daniel stared at the chip, his mind racing. If they exposed the Council, it could spark outrage across the galaxy. But getting the information off Lumina Prime wouldn't be easy. Security was tight, and the Council monitored all communications leaving the planet. "We'll need a way out," Laura said, thinking aloud. "And we'll need to make sure this data reaches Earth safely." Cale nodded. "I can get you access to a courier ship. It's small and unmarked, perfect for slipping past patrols. But once you leave, you're on your own." Over the next few hours, they prepared carefully. Cale provided forged clearance codes and mapped out a route to the docking bay where the courier ship was stationed. Daniel and Laura packed lightly, taking only what they needed. As they moved through the dimly lit corridors of the Council complex, their footsteps echoed softly, each sound making them flinch. When they reached the ship, Daniel turned to Cale. "Thank you," he said sincerely, "for everything." Cale shook his head. "Don't thank me yet. Just make sure the galaxy knows what they've done." As the engines roared to life and the ship lifted off, Daniel and Laura watched Lumina Prime shrink behind them. The journey ahead would be dangerous, but they carried more than just hope. They carried proof of the Council's betrayal. For the first time since arriving on the Council's capital, they felt a flicker of purpose. Earth deserved to know the truth. And when it did, the Council would face consequences unlike anything they'd ever imagined. Back on Earth, the resistance was gaining momentum. News of the Council's betrayal spread like wildfire, fueled by Emily Dawson's relentless reporting and the growing unrest among the population. Cities buzzed with activity as people came together in ways no one had seen in decades. Protesters filled the streets, holding banners that read, "We will not be forgotten," and exposed the truth. In homes, schools, and community centers, ordinary citizens organized themselves into groups dedicated to supporting Project Echo. In the Nevada desert, hidden beneath layers of rock and sand, engineers worked tirelessly inside a sprawling underground facility. The air was thick with the hum of machinery and the sharp smell of metal. Benjamin Cole stood at the center of it all, his eyes glued to a holographic blueprint floating above a workbench. Around him, teams of technicians adjusted circuits, tested power outputs, and calibrated alien components scavenged from old artifacts. Every second counted. Rachel Monroe walked through the facility, her boots echoing on the concrete floor. She stopped beside Benjamin, crossing her arms as she studied the progress. "How much longer?" she asked, her tone direct but not unkind. Benjamin wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. "A few more days for the core systems," he replied. "But the warp drive is tricky. If we rush it, we risk blowing the whole thing." Rachel nodded. "Understood. Just keep pushing. We don't have time to waste." Outside the facility, volunteers unloaded crates of supplies from trucks. Some carried tools, others brought food and water for the workers. Among them was Sarah Blake, a former cargo pilot who had joined the effort after losing her family in a council-sanctioned orbital strike. Her hands were calloused, and her face bore the marks of sleepless nights, but her determination never wavered. When she wasn't helping with logistics, she trained pilots to fly modified drones equipped with alien weaponry. One evening, Samuel Drake called a meeting in the facility's command center. Leaders from various factions gathered around a large table, their faces illuminated by the glow of monitors. Samuel stood at the head of the room, his expression grim. "We've intercepted communications from the Council," he began. "They know we're building something. They're sending envoys to demand our surrender." Murmurs rippled through the group. Rachel stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "They won't get the chance. We'll hit them first, send a message they won't forget." The plan was risky. Using stolen designs and reverse-engineered alien tech, Rachel proposed launching a preemptive strike against a Council supply depot orbiting Mars. The depot housed critical resources needed for any large-scale military operation. Destroying it would cripple the Council's ability to respond quickly and buy Earth precious time to complete Project Echo. Benjamin hesitated. "If we attack, they'll retaliate. Are we ready for that?" "We don't have a choice," Rachel said firmly. "If we wait, they'll crush us before we even finish." After heated debate, the decision was made. Teams scrambled to prepare the drones, outfitting them with experimental weapons based on alien energy signatures. Sarah volunteered to lead the mission, despite the dangers. "I've flown worse odds," she said with a smirk. "Besides, someone has to show these cowards what humanity's made of." As the launch date approached, tensions ran high. Benjamin stayed glued to his workstation, tweaking every detail of the Phoenix, the flagship vessel still under construction. He knew the real fight lay ahead, but this first strike could make or break their chances. Late at night, when the facility grew quiet, he found himself staring at the unfinished ship, wondering if it would be enough. On the morning of the attack, Sarah climbed into the cockpit of her drone, her heart pounding but her mind clear. Over the comms, Rachel's voice crackled. "Remember why we're doing this. For Earth, for everyone counting on us." Sarah took a deep breath, gripping the controls. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. With a roar, the drones launched into space, their engines blazing trails of light across the sky. Humanity's defiance had begun. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Earth was no longer willing to stand silently while the Council decided its fate. The drones streaked through the darkness of space, their sleek forms glinting faintly in the light of distant stars. Sarah Blake's hands moved deftly over the controls, her focus absolute. Behind her, a formation of smaller drones followed, each one armed with experimental weapons reverse-engineered from alien tech. The mission was simple: destroy the Council's supply depot orbiting Mars. But nothing about this fight would be easy. As they approached the depot, its massive structure loomed into view, a sprawling web of interconnected modules and storage pods, surrounded by automated defense turrets. Red warning lights blinked along its surface, and patrol ships drifted lazily nearby. It seemed quiet, almost peaceful. But Sarah knew better. Peace was an illusion when it came to the council. "Stay sharp," she said over the comms, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We only get one shot at this." The first wave of drones surged forward, drawing the attention of the depot's defenses. Energy beams lanced out, cutting through the void as the automated turrets sprang to life. Explosions lit up the blackness as several drones were obliterated instantly. But Sarah didn't flinch. She banked hard to the left, dodging a volley of fire before launching a counterattack. Her drone unleashed a pulse of energy that ripped through one of the turrets, leaving it smoking and silent. "All units, move in." Rachel's voice crackled over the comms. "Focus on the central hub." The team split up, weaving between bursts of enemy fire. Each pilot executed maneuvers honed during weeks of intense training, their movements precise and coordinated. One by one, the turrets fell, clearing a path toward the heart of the depot. Sarah led the charge, her drone skimming dangerously close to the station's outer hull. She locked onto the central module and fired. The impact sent shockwaves rippling across the structure, causing parts of it to collapse inward. But the council wasn't done yet. Reinforcements arrived in the form of sleek, silver warships, fast and deadly. They swooped in, unleashing barrages of plasma blasts that forced the drones to scatter. Sarah gritted her teeth, pushing her vessel to its limits. She couldn't afford to fail. "Not now. Keep them busy," she shouted. "I'll finish this." With the enemy distracted, Sarah dove straight for the core of the depot. Alarms blared as she breached the final layer of defenses. Her finger hovered over the trigger, then pressed down. A massive explosion erupted, engulfing the depot in a fiery inferno. Debris tumbled outward, catching several council ships in the blast radius. The mission was a success, but at a cost. Only half the drones returned to Earth. Back on the planet, news of the attack spread quickly. People gathered around screens in public squares, watching footage of the battle transmitted live by reconnaissance satellites. Cheers erupted as the depot crumbled into ruin. For the first time, humanity had struck back against those who sought to destroy it. In the Nevada facility, Benjamin Cole watched the feed with mixed emotions. Relief washed over him, but it was tempered by the knowledge that the council wouldn't take this lying down. "They'll come after us now," he muttered to himself, his fingers tapping nervously on the edge of his workbench. Rachel entered the room, her expression grim. "They're already mobilizing. We don't have much time." Benjamin nodded, turning back to the Phoenix. Its hull gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, nearly complete. He ran a hand along its smooth surface, feeling the weight of what was to come. This ship, and the people depending on it, represented Earth's last hope. Meanwhile, Daniel Carter and Laura Hayes were still en route to Earth aboard their courier ship. Through encrypted transmissions, they sent fragments of the data Cal had given them, ensuring the truth reached home even if they didn't. Their messages became known as the Whisper Files, inspiring millions across the globe. Daniel stared out at the vast expanse of space, his jaw set with determination. The council had underestimated humanity, and soon they would regret it. On Earth, Samuel Drake addressed a crowd of volunteers, his voice booming over the din. "Today, we showed them we won't go quietly. Tomorrow, we'll show them we won't go at all." The resistance burned brighter than ever. Humanity had taken its first step toward defiance. Now, it was time to prepare for the storm ahead. The Council's response was swift and merciless. Within hours of the attack on their supply depot, massive warships descended upon Earth, blotting out the skies with their sheer size. Orbital bombardments rained down, targeting cities, military bases, and communication hubs. Fires roared through urban centers, turning once thriving neighborhoods into smoldering ruins. The ground shook as shockwaves rippled outward, flattening everything in their path. In the Nevada desert, alarms blared inside the underground facility. Rachel Monroe barked orders over the chaos, her voice cutting through the panic. "Seal all entrances. Get everyone to the emergency bunkers." Engineers scrambled to secure equipment, while others guided civilians deeper into the complex. Benjamin Cole remained at his post, frantically working to stabilize the Phoenix's work core. If they lost the ship now, all hope would be lost. Above ground, Sarah Blake took to the skies once more, leading a squadron of modified fighters against the Council fleet. Her small craft darted between the behemoth ships, dodging plasma blasts and returning fire with precision. Each hit she landed felt like a small victory, but the odds were overwhelming. The Council's vessels were colossal, bristling with weapons that could vaporize entire regions in seconds. "We can't hold them off forever," one of the pilots shouted over the comms, his voice trained with fear. "Then make every shot count," Sarah replied, her tone fierce. She looped around a Council cruiser, firing a concentrated beam that tore through its hull. The ship shuddered, then exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Cheers erupted among the pilots, but Sarah knew it wasn't enough. For every enemy vessel destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Back in the facility, Daniel Carter and Laura Hayes finally arrived after days of evading Council patrols. Exhausted but resolute, they joined Rachel in the command center. Daniel carried a data drive containing the final pieces of evidence Cal had provided, proof of the Council's role in accelerating the rogue star system. "We need to broadcast this," he said urgently. "If the galaxy sees what they've done, it'll weaken their control." Rachel nodded. "Do it, but do it fast. We're running out of time." As Daniel uploaded the files to a satellite array, Laura monitored incoming reports from around the world. Resistance forces fought valiantly, but the Council's firepower was relentless. Millions had already perished, and the death toll continued to rise. Despite the devastation, stories of heroism spread like wildfire. Civilians risked their lives to protect strangers. Soldiers held their ground even when outnumbered. Humanity refused to surrender. Benjamin emerged from the hangar bay, his face pale but determined. "The Phoenix is ready," he announced, "but we'll need someone skilled to pilot it." Rachel turned to him, her eyes narrowing. "You built it. You're flying it." "I'm an engineer, not a pilot," Benjamin protested. "And you're also the only one who knows how to handle that warp core," Rachel shot back. "Get suited up." Reluctantly, Benjamin obeyed. As he climbed aboard the Phoenix, Samuel Drake addressed the remaining volunteers. "This isn't just about surviving anymore," he said, his voice firm. "It's about showing the Council and the galaxy that humanity will never back down. No matter what happens today, we've already won something far greater than any battle: our dignity." The Phoenix launched moments later, its engines roaring as it ascended toward the heavens. On board, Benjamin gripped the controls, his heart pounding. Outside, Sarah and her squadron formed a protective perimeter, drawing fire away from the ship. Energy beams streaked past, narrowly missing the Phoenix as it accelerated toward the Council flagship. "This is for Earth," Sarah yelled into the comms before diving headlong into the fray. Her fighter unleashed a barrage of missiles, striking a Council destroyer and sending it spiraling out of control. Inside the Phoenix, Benjamin activated the warp core, flooding the cockpit with a soft blue glow. The ship vibrated violently as it entered the final phase of its mission. He locked onto the rogue star system, now perilously close to Earth. With trembling hands, he initiated the sequence. A deafening roar filled the air as the Phoenix unleashed a pulse of energy so powerful it distorted space itself. The rogue star wobbled, its trajectory altered just enough to spare Earth from destruction. Cheers erupted below, but the cost was immense. The Phoenix disintegrated in a burst of light, taking Benjamin with it. Silence fell over the battlefield as the Council fleet retreated, their forces weakened and their plans disrupted. Though battered and scarred, Earth endured. And in that moment, humanity proved it would fight, not just to survive, but to thrive. The rogue star had been diverted, Its deadly path altered just enough to spare Earth from annihilation, but the cost of survival weighed heavily on everyone. The skies above were still filled with smoke and ash, remnants of the orbital bombardments that had devastated cities and claimed countless lives. In the underground facility, survivors gathered in silence, their faces etched with exhaustion and grief. Among them was Daniel Carter, his eyes red from lack of sleep. He stared at a screen displaying live footage of the ruined planet, his heart heavy with the knowledge that humanity's victory had come at such a steep price. Laura Hayes stood beside him, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "We did what we had to do," she said quietly, though her voice carried no conviction. "But it doesn't feel like a win." "It's not supposed to," Rachel Monroe interjected, stepping into the room. Her uniform was torn, and soot streaked her face, but her posture remained unyielding. "Survival never comes easy. What matters now is how we move forward." Samuel Drake entered the command center moments later, his expression grim. "The Council's fleet has pulled back, for now. But they'll regroup. We need to prepare for another attack." Daniel shook his head. "They won't stop until they've silenced us completely. Unless," his voice trailed off as an idea formed in his mind. "Unless what?" Laura asked, turning to him. "Unless we expose them," Daniel replied. "Not just to Earth, but to the entire galaxy. If other species see what the Council has done, how they've manipulated and betrayed less advanced civilizations, they'll lose faith in them, maybe even turn against them." Rachel frowned. "That's risky. Broadcasting the truth could provoke the Council into finishing us off." "It's also our best chance," Daniel countered. "If we can rally allies among dissenting Council members or neutral species, we might stand a fighting chance." After a brief debate, the group agreed. Using the satellite array still operational after the attacks, Daniel transmitted the data Cal had provided, along with footage of the Council's atrocities captured during the battle. The message spread quickly across the galaxy, reaching planets and species far beyond Earth's borders. Reactions were immediate and explosive. On some worlds, outrage erupted. Protests broke out in major cities, with crowds demanding answers from their leaders. Other species began questioning their loyalty to the Council, wondering if they too could become expendable pawns in the Council's schemes. Even within the Council itself, cracks began to form. A few member races secretly contacted Earth, offering aid or expressing solidarity. But not all responses were positive. Some Council factions doubled down on their hostility, vowing to crush Earth once and for all. The threat of retaliation loomed large, casting a shadow over the fragile hope that had begun to take root. In the days that followed, Earth worked tirelessly to rebuild. Volunteers cleared rubble, tended to the wounded, and salvaged whatever materials they could find. Resistance fighters trained harder than ever, preparing for the next wave of conflict. Sarah Blake, who had survived the battle alongside her squadron, spent hours teaching new pilots how to handle the modified drones. Her determination inspired others, even as she mourned the friends she'd lost. Benjamin Cole's sacrifice became a symbol of humanity's resilience. Though he hadn't lived to see the outcome of his work, his name echoed through every corner of the resistance. Engineers and scientists poured their energy into improving Earth's defenses, ensuring that the Phoenix's legacy would endure. As the dust settled, Samuel addressed the survivors one last time. "This fight isn't over," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of everything they'd endured. "But today we proved something important, not just to the Council, but to ourselves. Humanity isn't defined by its weaknesses. It's defined by its strength, its courage, and its refusal to give up." Far away, aboard a Council warship, alien commanders watched feeds of the protests spreading across the galaxy. For the first time, doubt crept into their minds. The Council's grip on power, once unshakable, was beginning to slip, and somewhere in the vast expanse of space, whispers of rebellion grew louder, carried by those who dared to dream of a better future. The final days were a blur of preparation and tension. Earth's skies remained eerily quiet, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the Council returned. In the Nevada facility, engineers worked around the clock to repair damaged drones and bolster defenses. Rachel Monroe paced the command center, her sharp eyes scanning reports from reconnaissance satellites. "They're massing near Jupiter," she announced one evening, her voice tight with urgency. "This is it." Daniel Carter stood beside her, staring at the holographic display showing the Council fleet's position. His mind raced as he considered their options. They had exposed the Council's betrayal to the galaxy, rallied allies among dissenting species, and proven humanity's resolve. But none of that would matter if Earth fell. He turned to Laura Hayes, who was reviewing tactical plans. "We need to make this count," he said firmly. "Not just for us, but for everyone watching." Laura nodded, her expression resolute. "Then let's remind them why they should never underestimate us." As the Council fleet approached, Earth's forces mobilized. Pilots climbed into cockpits, civilians took shelter in bunkers, and engineers ensured every weapon system was operational. Sarah Blake led the first wave of fighters, her hand steady on the controls despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "For Benjamin," she whispered before launching into space. The battle erupted with devastating intensity. Council ships unleashed torrents of energy beams, carving scars across Earth's atmosphere. Resistance fighters darted between them, striking with precision and agility. Explosions lit up the void as drones clashed with enemy vessels. Each loss stung, but the resistance pressed on, driven by sheer willpower. From the underground facility, Daniel addressed the galaxy via live broadcast. His face appeared on screens across countless worlds, his voice calm but unwavering. "You chose this," he began, his words cutting through the chaos. "You abandoned us when we needed you most. You used us as pawns in your experiments without regard for the lives you destroyed. But we are still here, and we will not go quietly." His message resonated far beyond Earth. On distant planets, protests intensified as more species joined the outcry against the Council. Some even sent aid, ships, supplies, and volunteers, to support Earth's fight. The Council's unity crumbled further as internal divisions widened. In the heat of battle, Sarah spotted an opening. A Council flagship loomed ahead, its massive form bristling with weapons. She signaled her squadron, "Follow me." Together, they executed a daring maneuver, weaving through enemy fire to strike the flagship's core. The explosion was colossal, sending shockwaves rippling through the fleet. Back on Earth, Samuel Drake watched the feed, his heart pounding. "Hold the line," he shouted to anyone within earshot. "We're winning." Hours later, the tide turned decisively. Damaged and demoralized, the Council fleet retreated, leaving Earth battered but alive. Cheers erupted among the resistance fighters, though tempered by sorrow for those lost. The cost had been immense, but humanity endured. In the aftermath, Earth began to heal. Cities slowly rose from the ashes, rebuilt stronger than before. Survivors gathered in public squares, sharing stories of courage and sacrifice. The rogue star now drifted harmlessly past Earth's orbit, a reminder of what could have been. Daniel stood once more before the Galactic Council, this time virtually, his tone firm. "You thought we were weak. You thought we'd crumble under pressure. But you were wrong. Humanity doesn't back down. We adapt. We fight. And we survive." As he spoke, alien delegates who had once dismissed Earth listened intently. For the first time, doubt flickered in their eyes. Earth's defiance had ignited something greater, a movement toward accountability and change. Though scars remained, humanity emerged stronger, united not by fear, but by hope. And as stars twinkled above a resilient planet, one truth became clear: Earth had chosen its own destiny, and it refused to let anyone else decide its fate.